Imagine a fire so intense it devoured the entire town in minutes. It melted metal into puddles and turned the sky into a blazing inferno. While most people remember the Chicago Fire of 1871, few know that on the very same day, just over 250 miles away, another inferno, the Peshtigo Fire in Wisconsin, claimed more lives than any other wildfire in U.S. history. Chicago's tragedy became a legend, but the deadliest fire of them all has lain in relative obscurity. Today, we're going to turn back the clock to October 8th, 1871, to uncover the haunting story of the Peshtigo Fire. By the autumn of 1871, northeastern Wisconsin was a tinderbox. Months of drought had baked the land dry. Farmers and lumbermen had spent the summer clearing trees, leaving behind mountains of brush, stumps, and sawdust, all waiting just for a spark. The region's economy boomed with logging, and towns like Peshtigo, home to a bustling sawmill and over 1,600 residents, thrived on the timber trade. But prosperity came at a cost. The land was stripped bare, and the air hung thick with sawdust and dry pine needles. Then came the weather. On October 8th, a cold front collided with a warm, dry air from the south, whipping up gale-force winds from the southwest. These weren't ordinary winds. They were hurricane-strength gusts, clocked at over 70 miles an hour, turning small brush fires into full-fledged firestorms. At around 8 p.m., the fire over Peshtigo turned an eerie orange. Embers rained down like hellfire. Trees exploded. The very air seemed to catch flame. Panic erupted. Families fled toward the Peshtigo River, the only refugee in a landscape consumed by fire. Men, women, and children plunged into the icy water, clutching children, clinging to logs, or submerging themselves for hours as walls of flame rolled overhead. The fire moved faster than man could run, with some witnesses saying it traveled at what seemed to be 90 miles per hour. It created its own weather. Fire whirls, tornadoes of flame, they all sucked oxygen from the air and asphyxiated those who stayed behind. When dawn broke, Peshtigo was gone. Not just damaged, it was obliterated. The sawmill, the church, homes, livestock, all reduced to ash. And the death toll? Estimates range from 1,200 to 2,500 people. Entire families vanished without a trace. Mass graves were dug because there weren't enough survivors to bury the bodies. Some bodies were never even recovered. They simply turned to dust in the heat. Compare that to the Great Chicago Fire, which began the same night and killed roughly 300 people. Chicago's fire captured the headlines, the sympathy, and donations from around the world. It became a symbol of urban disaster and rebirth. But Peshtigo? It was too remote, too rural, too poor to command the national attention. Newspapers barely mentioned it. Relief efforts were minimal. For decades, it faded into obscurity. Yet, the scale of the Peshtigo Fire remains unmatched. It burned over 1.2 million acres. That's an area larger than the state of Rhode Island. It generated a toxic cloud so massive, it rained soot as far away as Iowa. Survivors described the sound as a freight train mixed with thunder, a roar so loud it drowned out the screams. But why don't we remember it? Partly because tragedy in a booming city like Chicago resonated more with the nation's growing urban identity. Partly because communication in 1871 moved slowly, and Peshtigo had no telegraph line after the fire severed it. But also because history often overlooks rural suffering in favor of a more dramatic urban narrative. Today, there's a small museum in Peshtigo, and it stands as a quiet, lone memorial. There's a bell that was salvaged from the ashes, and it tolls in remembrance. And every October 8th, locals gather to honor the dead, those whose names were lost, whose stories nearly vanished in the smoke. The Peshtigo Fire is more than a historical footnote. It's a warning. Climate, land use, and human activity can combine with terrifying speed to create catastrophe. In an age of worsening wildfires, from California to Australia, Peshtigo's lesson echoes louder than ever. Even the most devastating disasters can be forgotten, unless we choose to remember. So the next time you hear about the Great Chicago Fire, remember this. On that same terrible night, a firestorm in Wisconsin claimed 10 times as many lives. And its silence speaks volumes. Thanks for watching today. The channel is the Daily Pastcast. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to our channel, liking this video, and coming back every day for more interesting stories of what happened on this date in history. We'll see you again tomorrow.